Well, hey, we are wrapping up chapter 3 today in our study through 1 Timothy. And what we've done is looked at leadership in the church and the way the church is structured and the type of character and qualifications that are required of those who are going to lead in the church. And what Paul's doing here in these verses here at the end of chapter 3 is he's going to summarize the emphasis that he's trying to make in chapter 3. He's trying to give us an idea of why these things are important and how these things help keep the church aimed where it's supposed to be, focused on what it's supposed to be. And that's love. We saw back in chapter 1, verse 5. And so let's read at the end of chapter 3 here. We're going to start at verse 14, and we're just going to go ahead and read 14 and 15. I hope to come to you soon, but I'm writing these things to you so that if I delay, you may know how one ought to behave in the household of God, which is the church of the living God, a pillar and buttress of the truth. What Paul's doing here is he's saying that he does long to be a part of what's going on in the church there, but most likely, if you remember the context, he's writing this from a difficult situation in Rome for himself, and so he can't be back in Ephesus with Timothy. And so he's providing guidance and leadership even from afar. And what he's doing here is saying, even though he can't come, he's writing this information is really important for a couple reasons for the church. And I want us to break down this week what those reasons are, what the emphasis is for the church, what the church actually is, and why these things are important. First, he says that it's a household of God. And the second one, which we're going to look at on Thursday, is he says that it's a pillar and buttress of the truth. When we think about the church as the household of God, think about your own home. Think about what makes your home a safe place. What makes your home a place where love actually can happen. When we think about the church as the household of God, I think maybe breaking it down into two categories is something really helpful. And the first is the church as a safe place. When you think about your own home and what makes that a safe place, it's a place to come after maybe a long day, a hard day, and it's a place that you can address some of the challenges of your day. But it's also a place that you can be re-energized for tomorrow. It's a place that you get filled up before you go and attack what's coming on the next day. And this is really a picture that Paul is trying to give, that the household of God is a safe place. And the second is that the church in the household of God is organized like a family, that there may be differing perspectives at times. There may be challenges and conflict, yet there is this unity, not necessarily through blood like there is in your family, but there is a unity around Christ and who he is and what he has done on the cross for us. And so there's this unity that cannot be broken in this household of God. And maybe the last thing that we should keep in mind as we're thinking about the church as the household of God is this really is the dwelling place of God himself. That God actually dwells among the lives of his people. That God is present with us whenever we gather together as the church. And that's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. It's something that should dictate how we behave in the church and outside of the church, that our identity as a family of God, in the household of God, should dictate how we live our lives. And for leaders, that's really, really important. For elders and for deacons, but they set the tone, they set the model for what the church should look like and how the church should behave in our life and in our world. And I think whenever we're thinking through the church, and whenever we start to look at it as the household of God, as a place that's a safe place, and as a place that's a family, and as a place that is the dwelling place of God, then we'll represent to a watching world what God is like. And that is love. God is love, and the church is to be love as well in the household of God.